big story over the weekend is that Apple and Facebook have now targeted Alex Jones over at InfoWars. For those who don't know who Alex Jones is, he's a crazy human. So Alex Jones's craze extends to believing that there was a pizza shop in Washington, D.C. that was associated with Hillary Clinton that was running pedophiles from it or some such. He also has suggested that the Sandy Hook massacre was actually a false flag, that it was a bunch of child actors. He has suggested that Seth Rich was murdered by Hillary Clinton, I believe. I think he was involved in the Seth Rich stuff as well. There are very few conspiracy theories in which Alex Jones does not engage. Most famously, he has said in the past that he believes that the government is turning the frogs gay by somehow changing the chemical composition in the water. He's most famous for his emotional outbursts on his show. So I will say that Alex Jones is wildly entertaining in the same way that WWE Raw is wildly entertaining, and for many of the same reasons. He screams and he yells and he sounds somewhat like Hulk Hogan, and he does not have Hulk Hogan's physique but takes off his shirt anyway, and he's really just a giant bag of lunacy. Well, he has a very large following because conspiracy theories are in fact extraordinarily popular. When people are seeking to place order on chaos, they look to conspiracy theories. There are a lot of people who are big names who are followers of Alex Jones. Most famously, the President of the United States used to call in regularly to Alex Jones and saw Alex Jones as a quasi-ally. Alex Jones claimed that after the election, President Trump was calling him fairly regularly. Jones, as I say, is a toxic personality of the highest order. He and I have gotten into it in the past. That actually ended with him doing a weird imitation of me, well, which I will play for you in a few minutes here. But here's what Facebook and Apple are saying. So Facebook and Apple have now banned him. They're clamping down on him. Suffice it to say that, well, I think that Alex Jones is basically a giant dumpster fire of human, that he smells like the burning garbage that aerates the scent of New York City. I think that Alex Jones should not be banned from Apple and Facebook simply because the standards that are being used by a lot of these social media companies are extraordinarily vague. Apple and Facebook, according to CNBC, have now clamped down on content by Alex Jones Monday. The former pulled 5 of his podcasts. The latter removed 4 pages controlled by him. Apple confirmed on Monday it removed 5 of the 6 podcasts, which included Jones' infamous The Alex Jones Show, as well as a number of other InfoWars audio streams. The news was originally reported by BuzzFeed News. Jones, of course, is a controversial conspiracy theorist who has claimed that the 2012 Sandy Hook shooting was a hoax, and he has been hit with other content bans from YouTube as well as Spotify. Apple's move is pretty dramatic. They've taken down the entire library of InfoWars podcasts rather than a select few episodes. An Apple spokesperson said, quote, "Apple does not tolerate hate speech, and we have clear guidelines that creators and developers must follow to ensure we provide a safe environment for all of our users. Podcasts that violate these guidelines are removable from our directory, making them no longer searchable or available for download or streaming. We believe in representing a wide range of views so long as those people are respectful to those with differing opinions." So they say that he has persistently uploaded content in breach of various content guidelines. Facebook says the same. In July, Facebook removed 4 of Jones's videos and hit his own personal profile with a 30-day ban over what the firm deemed as violation of its policies on bullying and hate speech. The company explained that when it deletes content, the removal counts as a strike, essentially a warning against the person that uploaded it in the first place. In the case of pages, Facebook says it holds both a page and an administrator who posts content in violation of its rules accountable. They said that this was not about fake news. They said this was not because of Jones's tendencies toward conspiracism. Instead, it was about hate speech and bullying. They say, well, much of the discussion around InfoWars has been related to false news, which is a serious issue we are working to address by demoting links marked wrong by fact checkers and suggesting additional content. None of the violations that spurred today's removals were related to this. So it is, again, unclear what exactly it was that triggered all of this. They say that it was his threatening language, but again, I would need to see the specific threatening language that he was using. And I'm somebody who's been threatened by Alex Jones. I mean, Alex Jones has legitimately gone on his show and threatened that he would send his buddies down to the people who help fund Daily Wire, that he would send those people down to their ranch in Texas and have them harassed. I mean, Alex Jones is a bad guy. But the problem is this. Once you start saying that hate speech is a rationale for banning people from social media, you get into some very, very vague territory. Because as we know, the left does not have a consistent standard that they uphold when they are looking at hate speech. They don't say that anything that is hateful is banned and then define hateful in extraordinarily specific terms. They don't say anything that is offensive is banned because a lot of things are offensive. Instead, they use this term hate speech to simply label stuff they don't like hate speech. I know this because I've been targeted, not by social media per se, but by a lot of folks on the left who suggest that I am some sort of provocateur involved in hate speech. What exactly have I said that is hate speech? Well, their favorite is that I don't use preferred pronouns. So if somebody like Caitlyn Jenner says that Caitlyn Jenner is a woman, I will still say that Caitlyn Jenner is a man, and I will say Caitlyn Jenner is a he, right? This is hate speech, according to a lot of folks on the left. Well, what's to prevent Apple or Facebook from removing my content online simply because I don't abide by their standards? There are rumors today that a lot of these social media giants are going to start banning or restricting content from people who they deem climate change deniers. Not even people who acknowledge that climate change is happening, but worry that it may not be happening to the same extent that some on the left say and don't look like the left's solutions. Those people may not be safe from the predations of social media also. So again, what exactly is so terrible? The company said it removed Alex Jones's pages for glorifying violence, which violates our graphic violence policy, and using dehumanizing language to describe people who are transgender, Muslim, and immigrants, which violates our hate speech policies. Again, this is where we get into some serious issues. What exactly violates that hate speech policy? So if I say that transgender people have mental disorders, which they do, okay, gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder is, as you may have noticed from the term gender identity disorder, a disorder. If you say that, is that now hate speech? What if I say that while not all Muslims are terrorists, a disproportionate number of terrorists are Muslim? Is that hate speech? Because that is also a fact. What if I say that immigrants coming to the United States, ought to be vetted because we don't know who's violent and who is not? Is that hate speech? I don't think it is. I don't even think it even comes close to hate speech. But one of the big problems is that you have too many folks on the left who decide that anything they don't like now is hate speech. And they're not, and I'm not, again, one of the things that's very weird about this is that I really dislike Alex Jones's brand. I think that Alex Jones is a liar. I think he's a conspiracist. I think he does say horrible things and hateful things on a regular basis. But there is no consistent standard that you can set. There is no limiting principle to Facebook or Apple and their social media guidelines other than trust us. And I'm sorry, I don't trust you guys. I don't trust you guys. And just to demonstrate, again, that I'm not saying this out of some perverse love for Alex Jones. Alex Jones hates my guts. And I think that he is, if I have not made clear, a flaming pile of human feces. Okay, so that weirdo, right, was threatening me on his show, and I'm now defending his show. Clearly, I'm a bad guy. It's just dangerous stuff. I think it's deeply dangerous stuff to have so many folks on the left trying to determine what content constitutes hate speech. The reason that I think that it's deeply dangerous, and the reason I don't trust them, is because there is a massive double standard when it comes to the left and, for example, racism. So when I suggest that hatred of a particular race is the definition of racism, people on the left will say, well, it depends on the race. So, for example, there's an article in the New York Times this week all about why calling white people racist may not actually be the best possible way of curbing racism. And this article drew all sorts of hatred from folks on the political left. The article was an opinion piece by a woman named Margaret Rankle, and what it said was, there are still white Southerners who honestly believe that American culture worked better for everyone, white and black alike, under segregation. There are still white Southerners who question how bad slavery really was. When an enslaved black person's health and strength are needed to guarantee the slaveholder's livelihood, this argument goes, it just wouldn't make sense to whip them or starve them or rape them or work them to the point of collapse. Southerners aren't alone in believing such mendacity, but the South is where slavery and segregation metastasize, so it may be more concentrated here. Whatever this insidious delusion takes hold, however, it requires a gargantuan ignorance of history to maintain. And there's a lot of ignorance afoot in the land right now. More people in Tennessee today drive cars bearing license plate. It's emblazoned with the Confederate battle flag than ever before. A strong majority of Southerners, 61%, are committed to keeping their Confederate monuments on public land. I've exhausted my ability to understand why deep into the 21st century, I'm still hearing otherwise good-hearted people use the same arguments white Southerners used to discredit Uncle Tom's Cabin more than 150 years ago. It couldn't possibly have been that bad. Maybe this is what happens when a person's only news source is the alternative universe of Fox and Friends, or maybe they're all just racists. Okay, they're definitely all racist. So this isn't a very leftist article, but it's coming under fire from the left. Why? Because here is the point. They don't believe they are. And the problem with writing off people who don't recognize this country's pervasive and enduring culture of white supremacy, much less the ways in which they themselves benefit from it, is simple. Being called a racist almost never causes a racist to wake up. Being called a racist almost never causes a racist to say, oh wow, you're right. I get that it's hard not to scream racist at a racist. If you're a white person who wants to be an advocate, it's both infuriating and demoralizing to know that the people causing all the suffering are people who look just like you. Here's what is also true. Prejudice is endemic to humanity itself. Human beings are tribal creatures. We trust the familiar and are drawn to it. We distrust the unfamiliar and keep our distance. White people, liberal and conservative, often claim not to notice another person's race, but it's just not true. We are hardwired to recognize difference and to view it as an aberration. Noticing difference is not the same thing as hating difference, of course, but I'm not just talking about vicious white supremacists here. I'm talking about garden variety prejudice, and the answer that this lady says is maybe yelling racist at people is not actually a good idea, because when you yell racist at people, all you are doing is alienating people. This author says, take a breath. When you encounter a person who believes he's merely honoring his ancestors by driving a car with an image of the Confederate battle flag on the tag, when a Facebook friend announces it's disrespectful to take a knee during the national anthem, when you sit down next to someone at a church picnic who genuinely loves and respects the black people they know, but who consistently votes for politicians with overtly racist policies, stop for a moment and take a breath. Before you say a single word, think of all the times you made an assumption about a stranger that proved to be untrue. Think of the times you found yourself feeling uneasy in the company of strangers of another race. Okay, so this is not only a reasonable article, it's a far-left article, right? It suggests that all of these are elements of racism, but the best way to fight all of that is not to yell racist to people. The left says that this is a huge mistake. Right? The left says that if you yell racist at a bunch of non-racist white people, that's totally fine, but if you say anything racist about a member of another race, then it's racism. There's this article in the New York Times in which it says maybe you don't want to call all white people racist, and the left goes mad. Why shouldn't we call all white people racists? Instead, we should point out that when people are racist, they're racist. Okay, so here's an article from Linda Tirado over at the Daily Beast, and this is fascinating. She says, poverty doesn't make you racist. It's more that the exhaustion strips you of the ability to dissemble for long, so if you're inclined toward racism already, it shows. A life lived close to tears of sheer fatigue and stress is not one in which you can expend the energy to stop yourself spouting your resentments or wielding your fears as a weapon. So in other words, some people choose racism, poverty doesn't cause racism, but individuals are responsible for their own racism, so why would you go easy on white racists? Hey, that's an opinion with which I have some sympathy. The problem is that the left has then claimed that Sarah Jeong, who is this new member of the New York Times editorial board, who has literally dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of anti-white hate tweets on her feed, right? She's been left alone by the left. The left says that her brand of racism is just fine. Now, how do you know the left has a double standard on this? Because this is hilarious. Candace Owens, who is black, right, a black woman, she took all of Sarah Jeong's tweets, or some of them, and she replaced the word white with black, tweeted them out, and Twitter banned her for a day. Right? Sarah Jeong is still on Twitter. Candace Owens was tossed from Twitter for a day. Twitter called it a mistake, but it's pretty obvious that there's a double standard in how exactly the left approaches these issues. So when we talk about Alex Jones and whether Alex Jones ought to be banned by Facebook or Apple, no matter how much you dislike Alex Jones, the reality is the left is never going to consistently apply their standards, which suggests that if we have to choose between an inconsistently applied standard and no standard might actually be the better move, okay, which is a scary place to be because the left is so damn dishonest about their social standards on this sort of stuff.